Dear students, in the previous video we discussed the first three paragraphs of the Secret of Work, the essay. So let me just remind you what we talked in the previous class. So in the first paragraph we understood that there are problems everywhere in the world, and these are called as miseries by the writer, and these miseries can be cured only when the inner nature of man changes, but not by any physical help. That is what we understood. And so the whole essay talks about the change of inner nature. So with the first paragraph we can understand that the whole essay talks about the change of man's inner nature. And in the second paragraph, we understood that we need to work continuously. So Bhagavad Gita says that work incessantly, and works may have good effects and bad effects. That is what we have seen. But we must not worry about works effects, but we need to worry about work only. So we must not be attached to the work, and uh, so that our soul will be free from the bondage and from the effects of both good and bad. So this is what we have seen in the second paragraph. And in the third paragraph, which is somewhat a big paragraph, so in that we have seen the example of lakes, ripples, and lakes, waves. That is what we have seen. So as the lakes ripples so come out and subside on the surface of the lake, so it has power, and again they may come out. This is what is called as a samskara or impressions. That is what we have seen. So whatever we think and whatever we act and do will be like an impression on our mind, and the sum total, that means the total of these impressions create a person or make a person, so a good person and a bad person. So this is what we have seen. So it depends on the impressions on the mind to become a good person or a bad person. So this is what we have seen in the first three paragraphs. Now let us come to the fourth paragraph. So as the essay is very long, so I will read out some lines and I'll give the gist of those lines. So you just concentrate. So let us go to the fourth paragraph. Look at the fourth paragraph. As a tortoise tucks its feet and head inside the shell, and you may kill it and break it in pieces, and yet it will not come out, even so the character of that man who has control over his motives and organs is unchangeably established. He controls his own inner forces, and nothing can draw them out against his will. By this continuous reflex of good thoughts, good impressions moving over the surface of the mind, the tendency for doing good becomes strong, and as a result, we feel able to control the indriyas, the sense organs, the nerve centers. Thus alone will character be established. Then alone a man gets to truth. Such a man is safe forever. He cannot do any evil. You may place him in any company, there will be no danger for him. So, until here, there is one thought. So, here the example of a tortoise is given. So, what is the example of tortoise and why the writer has given that? See, tortoise, if you observe, it folds its feet and head inside the shell. So, many times it does like that, and even if you try to break the shell and kill the tortoise, so it will not take out its feet and its head outside. That means such strong it is to protect its body, and such strong it is not to not to be killed by the others. So the same example is applied to the man who has a good character. So the man of good character, tries to control his inner forces or indriyas. So he tries to control his inner forces and his indriyas. See, even if some bad comes out, comes from outside into his mind will not allow those bad thoughts and those bad words and bad actions, because his mind is filled with all the good things and he is of a good character. So bad cannot enter him and bad cannot kill his good nature. Bad cannot destroy his good character, because he is already fixed, and because his mind is already filled with all the good impressions, and his tendency is to do good. So nobody and nothing, not even a sin, can do anything so regarding the character of the person who is of good in nature. So the example of tortoise is the best example in order to understand this, the man's character, the man of a good character. And let us go to the second part. The second part of the paragraph is this: there is a still higher state than having this good tendency, and that is the desire for liberation. Liberation means full freedom. Freedom from the bondage of good as well as freedom from the bondage of evil. See, here something is talked about liberation. Remember, until now we have seen the attachment to the good and attachment to the evil. So the man of a bad character and the man of good character. So that we have, so far we have seen that. And the man of good character rejects all the bad, and he becomes, a strong man with a strong character. That is what we have seen. But there is one more, higher state than having this good tendency. So that is called as a liberation. So something is talked about liberation here. So liberation means full freedom from the bondage of good as well as from the, bondage of evil. So we need this freedom, complete freedom from the bondage of good and from the bondage of evil. So what the writer wants to say here is that we must not be, in bondage with goodness, and we must not be in bondage with the badness. So look at that, you will understand something more. A golden chain is as much as a chain as an iron one. Yeah. So look at understand this. A golden chain is as much as a chain as an iron one. That means both are called as chains only. Likewise, the bondage is bondage. So evil, bondage of evil is equal to bondage of good also. That means, bondage of evil, as it causes, the negative results for man, and he becomes completely, the evil person or a bad character person. But even goodness, the bondage with the goodness is also a type of a sin or a mistake. So bondage of goodness is also has to be avoided. So you must not be bonded with the goodness also. That is what he says. Chain is chain, bondage is bondage. We must not be bonded with the badness or bad character, and we must not be bonded with this goodness also. Look at that, you will understand. There is a thorn in my finger, and I use another to take the first one out. And when I have taken it out, I throw both of them aside. I have no necessity for keeping the second thorn because both are thorns after all. Yeah. So here is the example which is given as a thorn example, mullu. So if there is a thorn on your finger, so you just try to remove that thorn with another thorn. So you will use another thorn to remove that thorn completely. And what will you do? So you will throw both these thorns aside, outside, because both are thorns. Even if the thorn which you have used to take that bad thorn which is there on your finger out. So, but as this is thorn, you are throwing these both the thorns aside. So, likewise, he says, the writer says that, you know, so the same rule is applied here also. That is, we need to use goodness to remove bad in our heart. So you try to do good things, good actions, and good thoughts you think. So with the good you just beat bad, like the thorn. With the good thorn you take out the bad thorn. So likewise with the good character you just try to take out the bad things in your heart. Next. So the bad tendencies are to be counteracted by the good ones, and the bad impressions on the mind should be removed by the fresh waves of the good ones, until all that is evil almost disappears or is subdued and held in control in a corner of the mind. But after that, the good tendencies have also to be conquered. Thus, the attached becomes unattached. Work, but let not the action or the thought produce a deep impression on the mind. Let the ripples come and go. Let huge actions proceed from the muscles and the brain, but let them not make any deep impression on the soul. So, let me give you explanation of these sentences here in this particular paragraph, fourth paragraph. So, he talked about the example of thorns, and he used the example of thorns, and what he wants to say out of this thorns example is that we use the good impressions to remove all the bad tendencies and bad impressions out of our heart. So that is good because you want to become good. But after becoming good, what you need to do is that you need to throw the thorns of this goodness aside. That means you need to forget what you did that is good. You need to forget after doing good, and after filling your heart with all the goodness. What you need to do is you need to forget that you did something good. So for example, you uh, helped some person or the other person. So you helped somebody, and that is a good act. And so after doing that good, what you need to do is that you need to forget that you did something good for a particular man. So that means attachment to that work has to be unattached. So you must be unattached to the good work. This is what he says. So attachment has to become unattachment. And next, our let our good thoughts and actions must not make a deep impression on the soul. Even our good actions and thoughts, they must not make a deep impression on the soul, as we have discussed already in the third paragraph, that these good impressions must not make a deep impression on the mind and on the soul. They may make an impression and they may create you a person with a good character, but these good and deep impressions must not be there on the soul. This is what he says. And next, we need to help some people as it is our duty. And don't try to count your goodness. So don't try to count your goodness. So this is what the writer says in this particular paragraph, fourth paragraph. Next, let us come to the fifth paragraph. How can this be done? We see that the impression of any action to which we get attached remains. I may meet hundreds of persons during the day, and among them meet also one whom I love. And when I retire at night, I may try to think of all the faces I saw, but only that face comes before the mind, the face which I met perhaps only for 1 minute and which I loved. All the others have vanished. My attachment to this particular person caused a deep impression on my mind than all the other faces. Physiologically, the impressions have all been the same. So, in this particular paragraph, the writer wants to say some important thing, saying that he has given the example of attachment or deep impression. So until so far he has talked about attachment and deep impression and so on. But in this paragraph he has given the example of this attachment. What is this attachment? Attachment to the work. He explained. So what is that? So if there is a lover and he meets 100 people during a particular day, but even 1 minute time, okay, and 1 minute talk which he spent with his lover, for him those moments make a deep impression on his soul and mind. See, he met 100 people, but he met his lover also, and he spent only 1 minute with his lover. But finally, on the ending of the day, he remembers, and there is an impression on his mind. Only impression which he has in his mind is the 1 minute time with his lover, not the much time which he spent with all other 100 people. So because he loved that person, and he remembers those words which are talked with the person, and he remembered those emotions and so on. So this is called the attachment. This is called the attachment. See, uh, we must not think, and we must not talk about, and we must not boast about our good actions. So as a lover thinks about that lover permanently, and there is a much impression on his mind and soul. So we must not think, and we must not talk about, and we must not boast about our good actions, as that lover is attached to that particular lover. So we must not work so as to boast ourselves, so as to talk about our goodness and think about our goodness. So feeling that you have done something good, so we must not be attached to the work which we did. So nowadays we see the political leaders. So those political leaders behave like this. So they help, with a little help to the other people or poor people, but they boast about that very much. But they talk about that very much. uh, so they help with a little help, but they show it as a very big help, so that they get name and they get fame, and they wanted to show themselves as a good person. So our character must not be like that. So you do good, but don't talk about that and don't think about and boast about that. So don't be attached to that. So be unattached. Be unattached. So this is what is talked in the fifth paragraph. Next, let us come to the sixth paragraph. Look at the sixth paragraph. Therefore, be unattached. Let the brain centers work and work incessantly, but not the mind be affected. Work as if you were a stranger in this land, a sojourner. Work incessantly, but do not bind yourselves. Bondage is terrible. This world is not our habitation. It is only one of many stages through which we are passing. Yes, let me explain this sixth paragraph. So, in sixth paragraph, the writer wants to talk about this working incessantly. Already, we have seen in the first part of the video that from Bhagavad Gita there is a statement that work incessantly, work continuously, and don't be unattached. Don't be attached. Let brain centers the work, but not the result. So, but not the effect. So you concentrate on the work. So don't worry about the effect and result. This is what is said in the first part of the video and the first part of the lesson. So here in this particular sixth paragraph, the writer says that we need to work like a stranger in land or earth. So we need to work like a stranger in the land or on earth. Stranger, there is one more word which is given here that is called as sojourner. Sojourner means the person who stays temporarily in a particular place. So we are like sojourners. We are like strangers in this land or in this earth. Everybody must remember that, because our permanent place is not earth. So don't be attached to any work. So many people are thinking like this. So our the earth is permanent, and so we need to acquire many things in the earth, and we need to do the work for our selfishness, for our children, and for our future generations, and we need to be more than rich. So likewise, they are doing all the evil things and they try to acquire the things and so on. But we need to remember, everybody must remember that we are just, according to Swami Vivekananda, we are just sojourners. We are just strangers in this particular land, that is earth. So we belong to the other world, that is heaven, according to Swami Vivekananda. And so we must not work only for this particular earth or this particular land. So remember that. And so don't be attached to any work. So this bondage is terrible. So attachment or bondage is terrible, because this may make you selfish. So this bondage makes a person selfish. I already told you, if you are working like this earth is permanent for us and this is only the world which is for us, what you do is you start doing the selfish work. And so this attachment or this bondage is, it makes you selfish. So this is what we find in the sixth paragraph. Next, Let us go to the seventh paragraph. The gist of this teaching is that you should work like a master and not as a slave. Work incessantly, but do not do a slave's work. Do you not see how everybody works? Nobody can be altogether at rest. 99% of mankind work like slaves, and the result is misery. It is all selfish work. Work through freedom, work through love. The word love is very difficult to understand. Love never comes until there is freedom. There is no true love possible in the slave. If you buy a slave and tie him down in chains and make him work for you, he will work like a drudge, but there will be no love in him. So, when we ourselves work for the things of the world as slaves, there can be no love in us, and work is not a true work. This is true of work done for our relatives and friends, and is true of work done for our own selves. Selfish work is slave's work, and here is a test. Every act of love brings happiness. There is no act of love which does not bring peace, blessedness as its reaction. Real existence, real knowledge, and real love are eternally connected with one another. The three in one, where one of them is, the others also must be. There are the three aspects of the one without a second: the existence, knowledge, and bliss. Yes, let me explain this seventh paragraph. So, in the seventh paragraph, so the writer wants to say that our work must be like a master but not like a slave. We need to work like a master but not like a slave, because there is no freedom uh, in the slave. So, as there is no freedom, the slave will not love the work. The slave has no love towards the work because he has no freedom. Whatever he does, as he is in the bondages and chains, what happens is he, without any interest and without any love, he does the work. And so we are instructed to work through freedom and work with love. Work like master, not like slave. Slave has no freedom, and so he does not have love towards the work, and he will not work with love. He will feel difficult, and he has no interest towards the work. So we must not work like that slave, but we must work like master. That is opposite word for the slave. That is, we need to work like master. Master plans the things, master executes the things, and master tries to get the good result out of the things. And master is not dependent. Master is not attached. Master is not in bondages, and so we need to work like master. So this is what is one idea in this particular paragraph, that is slave and master example. But we are instructed to work like master but not like slave, because slave does not have any freedom and love towards the work. And next, in the second part of this particular paragraph, later you just read the paragraph. Let me explain, because the paragraph is huge and it takes a lot of time for me, if I take each and every word and each and every sentence to explain. So let me explain what is there in the remaining part of the paragraph. Yeah, work not selfishly but unselfishly. So we need to work without this selfishness. So one example is given by the writer here. So the work which you do to yourself and to your friends and to your relatives. So you work in one way if you're working for yourself, your friends and relatives, but you work differently if you are helping the unknown people or the other people. That means you try to help your own people or your own self in one way, and you try to help and do the work for unknown people differently. So here we need to understand that, you know uh, there is no act of love, in the work which is done to others. That means the unknown people. So there is the act of love uh, to the work which we are doing to ourselves. So there is the act of love and there is selfishness. See, if you are doing to other people, that is selflessness, but if you are doing to yourself, that is selfishness. So, as you are doing to yourselves, likewise you need to do to others also. This is what even Bible also says. As you love yourself, own self, you love others. So, if you work with love, what will happen is that there will be definitely happiness, and there will be definitely peace in our hearts. So, if you work with love, there is definitely happiness and peace in our hearts. So, as you get happiness if you work for yourself, likewise you need to get happiness if you are working for others also, the strangers or unknown people also. That means the happiness which you are getting out of the work which is done to yourself, the same happiness you need to get if you help others or do work for others. You need to go to that stage. We need to go to that particular place, so that particular character. And finally, in this paragraph, the writer wants to talk about the three things. Look at that: real existence, real knowledge, and real love. So, these three words are connected with each other. So, if there is real existence of a man, so he will have real knowledge and he will have real love. And if the person has real knowledge, so he is really existing, really living, real life is there in him, and real love is also there in him. And if the person has the real love, so he is really living and he has the real knowledge. So these three are connected with each other. Where one is, the others also are there. So this is what we find in this particular sixth paragraph. Example of the slaves and masters, example of work done to you and done to others, and finally he says that we must not be such selfish, but we must love others also as we love ourselves. So, and he also has given three words: real existence, real knowledge, and real love. So this is what is talked in this particular paragraph, that is seventh paragraph. Eighth paragraph. Look at the eighth paragraph. Krishna says, "Look at me, Arjuna. If I stop from work for one moment, the whole universe will die. I have nothing to gain from work. I am the one Lord. But why do I work? Because I love the world. God is unattached because He loves. The real love makes us unattached." So, in this eighth paragraph, the writer wants to say, Swami Vivekananda wants to say that he has given one example, that is Lord Krishna's talk with Arjuna. So what did he say? So he told to Arjuna saying that I love this world. So as I love this world, I work, and as I am working, I am not gaining anything, and even I am using my energy and I am working for the world. I am the Lord. I am the Lord, but why do I work? Because I love the world and I love the people. Because of that, I work. I'm not gaining anything and getting anything out of my work, but I feel happy and I love the human beings. And so I work for them. So, God here, Krishna here is unattached to the work. So, he is not attached to the work because he is loving the work, he is loving to work, and he is not in bondages, and he is feeling happy to work for others. So, he is unattached to the work. So attachment is that in the next paragraph we see that attachment is expecting something from the work. So that is called as attachment. So here there is no attachment of Krishna working for the whole world. So that is what we have seen. Next, let us go to the ninth paragraph. Look at that. To attain this unattachment is almost a life work, but as soon as we have reached this point, we have attained the goal of love and become free. The bondage of nature falls from us, and we see nature as she is. Yeah, let me explain the ninth paragraph. This nature of unattachment, so everybody must have this nature of unattachment. As Krishna has this particular character, that is unattachment, so also the nature of Krishna, that is the unattachment nature, everybody, all of us must have. And so it is not a very easy thing to acquire this attachment, but it is a lifelong process. It is almost a life work. Until we get this unattachment, we need to work for that, and we need to strive hard to get this, the status, to get this position of unattachment. So thus bad nature goes away from us step by step. So if you are trying for this nature of unattachment, what happens is that there is a bad nature in you. So bad tendencies or bad impressions in you, they will go away from you, from your soul and mind, step by step, because you want this unattachment but not attachment to the work, because you are selfless, not selfish. So this is what is there in the ninth paragraph. Let us go to the 10th paragraph. Do you ask anything from your children in return for what you have given them? It is your duty to work for them, and there the matter ends. In whatever you do for a particular person, a city or a state, assume the same attitude towards it as you have towards your children. Expect nothing in return. If you can invariably take the position of a giver, in which everything given by you is a free offering to the world, without any thought or return, your work will bring you no attachment. Attachment comes only where we expect a return. As I told you, I'm not explaining line by line and word by word, but I'll give the gist of the particular sentence because the essay is very huge. Yeah. What is there in the 10th paragraph? Yeah. So we know the parents love the children very much, and they do the work for children, it. And from the time of their birth, even until they die, some parents try to help and work for their children and so on. So parents do not expect anything in return. So we all know that for their work they don't expect anything in return. Yeah, they try to help and they try to please, and they love their children very much, but they don't expect anything in return. So because there is a selfless work in parents, so we also must work for a person or a city or a state or any place or anybody in the same way, like parents loving the children. parents working for the children, we also have to work to make the other persons happy. So we need to work like parents. And if you are a giver to the world, so if you are giving something to the world freely without the thought of return, so then there will be unattachment. So if you are giving to the world freely without the thought of returning or gaining something back, so there will not be any attachment in that particular act. So attachment is, you want to again get something out of your help. So many times we help the other people and we expect the same from them when the time comes. But here the writer says that we must not be attached to the work, because we need to love and work for other people without expecting anything in return, and that is what is called as unattachment. One more example of unattachment is given in this particular paragraph. So attachment comes only where we expect a return. So if you expect a return, then there is attachment. If you don't expect a return, there is no attachment, there is unattachment. So we need to go for that unattachment. We need to love others like parents love their children. So this is what is there in the 10th paragraph. Next, let us go to the 11th paragraph, the last paragraph. If working like slaves result in selfishness and attachment, working as masters of our own mind gives rise to the bliss of non attachment. We often talk of right and justice, but we find that in the world, right and justice are mere baby's talk. There are two things which guide the conduct of man: might and mercy. The exercise of might is invariably the exercise of selfishness. All men and women try to make the most of whatever power or advantage they have. Mercy is heaven itself. To be good, we have all to be merciful. Even justice and right should stand on the mercy. All thought of obtaining a return for the work we do hinders our spiritual progress. Nay, in the end, it brings misery. There is another way in which this idea of mercy and selfless charity can be put into practice, that is, by looking upon works as worship. Here we give up all the fruits of our work unto the Lord and worshipping Him. Thus, we have no right to expect anything from mankind for the work we do. The Lord Himself works incessantly and is ever without attachment. Ever without attachment. Just as water cannot wet the lotus leaf, so work cannot bind the unselfish man by giving rise to attachment to results. The selfless and unattached man may live in the very heart of a crowded and sinful city. He will not, it is not right, it is not, he will not be touched by sin. Yes, let me explain the 11th paragraph. So there are two words here in this particular paragraph. Those two are might and mercy. What is might? Might is the act of selfishness. So these type of people, who believe in might, they take advantage or power out of any help. If they are helping, so they want to get power or they want to get any advantage out of their help. So this is one type of set of people, might and mercy. So there is one more set of people, yeah, that is mercy. They have grace or love towards the people. So this mercy is heaven itself. This is what the writer says. Mercy is heaven itself. And rights and justice. Previously, the writer talks about these two words also, rights and justice. So now he says, rights and justice have to be done on based on mercy. Based on mercy, these rights and justice have to be done, not based on might. So if based on might these two things are done, what happens is that those people who believe in might, they expect something from you. But based on mercy, these rights and justice have to be. And next, so understand something about might and mercy here. And next, he goes to one more phrase, that is, work is worship. In this paragraph he talks about work is worship. So what he says here is, if you treat work as worship, you practice mercy and selfless charity. So if you treat work as worship, what you do is you'll start practicing this mercy and selfless charity, because you treat work as worship. And we must work as if we give fruit of offering to God. So we must work as if we give the fruit of offering to God. That means if you are helping some people, think that you are helping God. You are offering to God. You are offering, something, the fruits of offering to God. And if you work with love, uh, the some other people, just think that you are loving God, and you are just offering to God. So this is a type of unattachment. Because God is unattached, we have already listened to that. Krishna is unattached, so also we must be. So we must work, as if we are offering to God. We must work and help the other people. And next, here is the example in the last lines. One example is given, that is the lotus leaf. So you know it, the lotus leaf, even it is covered with the water, surrounded by the water, and it is out of water, but you cannot see even a small drop. So it extracts, and even you cannot, if you pour some drops also, definitely it will not take those drops. And it is like leaf is rejecting that water. So even if it is filled with water, but the water cannot touch it, and the water cannot do it, anything. So likewise, here he says, the writer says that selfless man, unattached man, cannot be touched by sin. So even if all the other people, for example, you are only one person out of 100 people, the selfless man, and you are surrounded by all the sinful people and the bad people and the people with the bad character, it's okay, because you cannot be touched by the sin of those other people, and you will be special, and you will be favored by God, and you will be treated as a good person in the sight of God, and no sin can enter you, like water cannot enter lotus. So this is what he says. And finally, so the writer wants to say, Swami Vivekananda wants to say that the inner nature of man has to change. And in one or two sentences we can say that it talks about the selfless charity, and the work has to be done without an attachment, without attachment, and we all must have the loving attitude towards others. And as God is helping, okay, we must also help the other people. And he talks that he says that we need to what you call remove all the bad tendencies and bad character from us by doing all the good works. And then after doing the good works, don't be attached to the good works and thinking and boasting about your good works, but we need to be unattached. So that is what he has said, like it is called as liberation out of this goodness, liberation out of this badness. So we need to go to the state that we don't expect anything in return for our help and for our works. So this is what in the Secret of Work essay Swami Vivekananda says. So it is for the personality development of our personality development. And so this essay helps us to change our inner nature also. So with this we have finished the lesson, The Secret of Work, and its explanation. So let us meet with one more lesson in the next video. Until then, goodbye.